realized what they were doing, and they went ahead and said, "You're back from your trip," I said. Okay. I don't know what's going on today. Why everybody's in the back. Nobody wants to come up in the front. So, but there are all those that sit up here in the front most often. You know, when I read this gospel reading today and I was trying to figure out what to preach on, my first reaction was, I don't want to preach on this. I've preached on this loaves and fishes so many times, and I actually did it again last year. But after a little bit of research, I realized there's much more here than just feeding folks. And that was quite a few folks that they were feeding that day. Because this is the second absolutely phenomenal, wonderful story that Mark tells us. Similar, but two different incidences where Jesus performs this miracle. Now, we all know the story of the loaves and fishes and the miracle where Jesus multiplied the 7 loaves and a few little fishes. Come on. A great story of Jesus' ability to perform miracles is an awesome story, but there's more to the story, and it's rarely ever brought out. First, there are two things that are closely intertwined in this incident. And over we see Jesus when he is just moved to compassion. The most amazing thing here is his consideration of people. Now, consideration is a virtue, ladies and gentlemen, that never forgets the details of life. It can be people's concerns, their fears, their needs, or anything that impacted their individual lives. And Jesus looked at the crowd, and they had been with him for 3 days. And he remembered that they had a long walk home, because remember, he's on the other side of the Sea of Galilee in an area called the Decapolis. You know, Jesus knew that one of his chores while he was here on earth, that the task it was to bring the splendor and the majesty of the truth and love of God to men and women, regardless of who they were. And he thought maybe that this was going to happen to his congregation on their long walk home. Now, they were in the desert. They were way away from any communities or anything. But you see, Jesus wasn't like that. He didn't just worry. He worried about them. See, if you confront Jesus with a lost soul or a tired body, his first instinct is to help. It's all too true that the first instinct of too many people is not to help. No, I don't want to get involved in that. That might not be safe. I don't want to do that. I don't have the money to give to that. See, 1,001 thoughts run through our heads as we try to dissuade ourselves why we don't want to do something. And when we know the story of the Good Samaritan, and here's a man who is not even involved with these people, and he's a different religion, he's a different nationality, and this guy was set upon by robbers, and they almost beat him to death and left him on the side of the road to die. Priests came along, ignored him. Other people came along, ignored him. But this Samaritan, who the Jews hated, came along. Not only did he help the man and get him to a place, he paid for his upkeep until the man could get well. See, again, you confront Jesus with a situation like that, and his first instinct is I'm going to help this person, especially if you ask. The second is the challenge of Jesus. When Jesus had pity on the crowd and he wished to give them something to eat, the disciples immediately pointed out the practical difficulty, because we're in a desert. I mean, where do you expect us to get something? And Jesus said, "Well, you know, you can get something." And they said, "Well, we don't have any money." And Jesus said, "Well, And we have to stop and think about it sometime, and they can't run down to Burger King and McDonald's to get these people something to eat. There was no place to go. And Jesus immediately snapped back at them. Well, what do you have that you have that we can help? He gives you and I the same mandate, and we have a tendency to look the other way and to ignore it. I know I have. I try better today than I used to be. But so compassion here became a challenge, and Jesus was trying to tell them, don't push the responsibility of helping onto someone else. Don't say that you would help if only you had something to give. Do not say that in any circumstances that help is impossible. Take what you have and give it and see what happens. One of the most joyous of all Jewish feasts is the Feast of Purim that falls on March the 14th and commemorates the deliverance of which the book of Esther tells us. Above all, it is in the time of gift giving. And one of the regulations is no matter how poor you are, you have to find someone else that's poorer than you, and you have to give them a gift. Now stop and think about that a minute. Jesus has no time for the spirit which waits until the circumstances are perfect before it thinks of giving. Well, I don't know, maybe later on. If you see someone in trouble, help him with what you have. You can't solve everybody's problems, but you can help them in some way, or you can help them to help themselves. There's two people that sit down here on right at Morphy Avenue, and they sit next to there's a little bench right next to Regions Bank. And I've seen them there several times, and after I read this and studied this and prayed about it, and I said, you know what? Those people are homeless. So I stopped to talk to them yesterday. Now, I don't have a place to take them, but there's something I can do and we can do to help those people, especially the mother, as the mother and her son. But I'm not here really today to chastise everybody that's passed them. I know many of you probably have seen them. They're there every day. The lady said she had $7 in her pocket. But there are two interesting things in this story that we don't normally see. And theologians have tried to come into, we've got, in Mark, we have the story of the Jews coming to Jesus, the 5,000, and he fed them with the fish and the loaves. And this is the same story. And it's interesting how they finally realized that this group of people was different than the first group of people. These weren't Jews. You see, Jesus, in Mark 5, 1 through 20, we read that Jesus healed a Gerasene demoniac. The man was possessed by demons. The demons initially told Jesus, get away from me, leave us alone. Remember, Jesus asked him what his name was, and he said, Legion, because there are many of us. But Jesus ran that demon out of the man, and the man wanted to go with Jesus because he was so excited to be free. And Jesus said, no, I don't want you to go with us. I want you to go back into your people and tell them what I did for you. And this, as they think, is the crowd that came, because this happened in the same district of Decapolis where he healed him. So it's just possible that all these people came, and this crowd of 4,000 people, due to the missionary activity of this healed demoniac. And have we got here in this gospel reading a glimpse of what one man can do for Jesus Christ? Each and every one of us can do that. We're here today because we love Christ. And we can go and we can spread that good news. Because there were people there that day that came to Christ and found their souls because a man came and told them what Christ had done for him. And I'm here to tell you, Christ has done a lot for me. I mean, I've cheated death 6 times with serious issues. And I'm here because he wants me to be here and because I want to be here, and I'm not even going to leave anytime soon. And it's very obvious if you look at these and you study these and you research it, that Jesus, in both of these stories, came to feed the bread of God to both the Jews and the Gentiles. God was opening his hand, and he just and literally satisfying the desires of every living thing. That's why he sent Jesus here, to spread this good news. Jesus is not going to walk off and leave us. He's going to be with us whenever we need him, if we ask him for it. People don't always come and ask Christ for what they need or what they want, especially for what they need, because they're fearful. They're scared. He's not going to, look at me, he's not going to give me anything. But I can tell you there are people here in this congregation today that know, and they've felt the love of Christ, and know by asking him, he's going to take care of them. So don't for one minute, ladies and gentlemen, think that you're not worthy of Christ's love, and you're not worthy of Christ giving you what you need. Because I certainly wasn't. When you see someone in need, I ask that you do what you can to help. You can't solve all their problems, but you can do something to help. You can give them some comfort, give them some love. And you will be blessed so many times that it's just, I've had it, I've been there, I've seen it. I actually had an incident where, and I've told this to some of the people before, and a couple of other sermons I've done on the loaves and fishes. But we had a situation at the church right after Katrina. There was nobody in town much, but there may be a few parishioners there. And there was no food. There was nothing open. There was no electricity. And a lady showed up at church, and she had a little bowl full of tuna fish, about that big around, about that deep. Might have been a little mound on it. And she brought a loaf of white bread and some potato chips. All I got. So they started making sandwiches for people in the kitchen, and I'm standing out front talking to people, and all of a sudden these guys come up that are cutting trees. and policemen that are directing traffic, which there wasn't much traffic there. And they said, "We understand y'all have food." I said, "Well, yeah, we've got a little tuna fish in there if you want to eat it. Well, go on in and see if the ladies can feed." And I tell you right now that there was probably 30 or 40 people came up and got a sandwich, and we never ran out. And my thought was there won't be any left when I get in there. Sure enough, there was enough left for one sandwich. God will come, and he will take care of you if you just ask him. Amen. Now we can get on with the regular part of the service that we messed up on.